वेदर्षयः समारभ्य वेदान्ताचार्या मध्यमाः योगीरां सुरत्कुमारपर्यन्तं वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां रत्नाकराधौतपतां हिमालयकिरीटिनीं ब्रह्मराजऋषिरत्नाढ्यां वन्दे भारतमातरम्. Bhagavan Sri Krishna in the BhagavatGita, he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He says, whenever there is the decline of dharma and ascendance of adharma, in order to protect the dharma and to destroy the forces of evil, adharma, I manifest myself. So, Bhagavan says he manifests himself in various names and forms for the protection of the dharma and for the destruction of evil. This is the foundation for the concept of avatars. We have already seen the Dashavataras of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the all-pervasive consciousness. It descends to the earthly plane. And we also found that there is a representation of the process of evolution in the themes of the Dashavatara, in the stories of the Dashavatara. Matsyavatara. You see, according to Hindu mythology, there is the process of creation and dissolution of the universe. We say the Krita Yuga, the Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga, the four yugas. Krita Yuga, the creation starts, then Dwapara is the age of the advancement of time, and the Treta Yuga, when everything is protected, and Dwapara Yuga, we find that in Krishna's advent, the supramental consciousness, etc. And then comes the Kali Yuga, and it is said that the end of the Kali, that is the fourth age, is the last age. At the end of the Kali, there will be a total dissolution, destruction of the entire universe. Everything will go back into the source. That is called Pralaya. This concept is presented. Modern science has also agreed that things that come into existence at one time or other, it will have to manifest, vanish. Even this universe, we have seen that many continents have come up and they have all gone in delusion. So this concept of dissolution is presented in our Hindu mythology as well as in Hindu philosophy. At the time of dissolution, Lord Vishnu took to the form of Matsyavatara when there was a pralaya, deluge, in order to protect Manu and other rishis. Manu and other rishis represent the highest manifestation of the consciousness, that is, Brahmanishtas. In order to protect that Brahmic consciousness, Vishnu takes to the avatara of Matsya, fish, and he lifts them up from the delusion and protects them. Kurma, when there is fight between the forces of evil and the forces of good, in order to help the forces of good, there is the Samudra Madana, the churning of the ocean, and at the time of the churning of the ocean, the Meru is used as a rod, and the great serpent Vasuki is used as a choir or a robe to churn the ocean. And at that time, in order to hold that rod, Mahavishnu takes to the form of a kurma, a tortoise, and he holds it. That is the story. It means the consciousness, when the churning of the ocean or the process of creation starts, the substratum is the consciousness. It is on the back of the consciousness that everything emerges, everything is sustained, everything is produced. Even in the other Puranas, we find in Shiva Purana, Shiva, the supreme consciousness, he is the substratum, and Shakti, the Prakriti manifestation, she dances on the chest of Shiva. These are all symbolic presentations, just showing that matter emerges out of consciousness. Sukurma Avatara, and the earth is taken away by a Rakshasa to the bottom of the ocean. That is, the adharamic forces, when they engulf the earthly plane, Mahavishnu takes to the form of a boar to sustain the earth and protect it. It is a symbolic presentation. And then we found the avatara of Vamana. We also explained that the Matsyavatara represents the stage of life springing up from water, and then there is the Aquarian stage. Then the Kurma Avatara represents the amphibian stage. The Varaha Avatara, it represents the animal stage, and gradually from animal, the half man, half animal, that is, gradually the consciousness passes from the animal stage to the human stage. There is an intermediary stage, that is Narasimha Avatara, half man, half lion. And then comes the Vamana Avatara. I had explained about Vamana coming and thrusting Mahabali back to the Padala. Last class we had explained. After the Vamana Avatara, we find the evolution of the consciousness to the higher planes, the moral and ethical plane, Maryada, Purushottama, Rama, and before that there is the evolution of the willpower, and that willpower is represented by Parashurama, and then we found that the next avatara is Rama Avatara, the moral and ethical consciousness developing, and then comes the yogic power developing, manifesting, that is Balarama, the Adishesha, serpent power emerging through the Kundalini to the Sahasra Sirsha. It is represented by Balarama Avatara. And then after Balarama Avatara, we find the Purna Purusha, the supra-mental consciousness, as Aurobindo said, it is completely manifest in Krishna Avatara, the Purna Purusha, the supermost of the avatars. Now, we have seen all this in the last class. After the Krishna Avatara, in our scriptures, there is mention about the Buddha Avatara. We all know that Buddha came much later in the Indian history. His period is very later than the Puranas and other things. But he is considered as one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu. In the Gita Govinda, Jayateva has sung the praise of Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, in the marvelous poetical work Gita Govinda, that is the song in praise of Lord Govinda or Vishnu. And in that Gita Govinda, he explains the Dashavataras, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, all these avatars one by one. he explains in the Gita Govinda. And in that Ashtapadi, in the Gita Govinda, he speaks about the advent of Buddha. Nindasi yajna vidhera hahasruti jadam sadaya hrudaya darshita pashughadam kesava dhrita buddha sharira. See, Krishna's period, we know Dwapara Yuga. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, the Kali starts. In the Kali Yuga, our scriptures very clearly say that values of life, way of life starts deterioration because it is a period before the dissolution of complete vanishing. So, in the Kali Yuga, there is fall in the values, fall in the way of life. At that period, what happens? All those values of life, dharma, virtues, which have been highlighted in the ancient scriptures, right from the Vedas, the Puranas, Itihasas, etc., they start crumbling, they start deteriorating. Our way of worship, our religious practices, they also deteriorate during the Kali era. The great masters, when they spoke to us to raise ourselves to the highest level of consciousness, they said, you have to kill the animal instincts within yourself. In every human being, there is the tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic instincts. Tamasic instincts, the animal instincts, it has come because of that biological evolution. We have inherited from the animal stage a lot of animal instincts, anger, wrath, and aggressive tendencies, aggrandizement. All these qualities in man, we find in the animals it is common. The lion and the tiger and all those things. Those tendencies, when they arise in man, they are the manifestation of the tamasic tendencies. So man lives the life of an animal, though he has attained the mental capacities, the capacity of rational thinking. Man is a rational animal. Though he has obtained the capacity of rational thinking, he is not inclined to use that reason for higher realization. He uses his reason and intellect for his selfish purposes, for physical, mental, for his physical enjoyment and mental enjoyment, pleasures, etc. Instead of aiming for a higher goal, his craving is for selfish interests. So what happens? Even the religious practices, the prayers that we do, the rituals and rites that we conduct, they also deteriorate. They go down to the level of seeking material pleasures, comforts, and name, fame, glory, etc. So even the religious and rituals deteriorate. The masters wanted us to kill the animal tendencies within us. That killing the animal tendencies in us, they termed as Pashubhali. Kill the animal within you, the animal instincts. Once we destroy the animal instincts within us, then we have the human instincts. Human instincts is attachment to our family, attachment to the society around us. That also often creates conflicts and selfish interests, selfish attachment, blind attachment to the family, society, etc. Even that binds man because he is not able to expand himself fully, and therefore they said Narabali. In the way of life, Hindu way of life, we found Brahmacharya, Garhastya. In the Garhastya plane, he is attached to his wife, children, kith and kin, society, etc. But from there, he has to rise through Vanaprastha, meditation, contemplation, spiritual practices. He rises to the level of a sannyasi. For a sannyasi, the entire universe, it is his kith and kin. Yadum Ure Yavaram Kalir, the great Tamil saint, said, every place is their native place. And they say every being, even the worst, lowest form of life, that is also manifestation of God. It is said that one sannyasi, he went to take bath in the Ganga. While taking bath, a scorpion which had fallen in the river, it was struggling to survive. The sannyasi took that scorpion in his hand, but the nature of scorpion is to sting. So when he took that scorpion into his hand, it stung his hand and jumped out of the hand. The sannyasi once again picked it up. Again and again he was doing it, and the scorpion was stinging and jumping out of his hand. A person who was standing on the shore, he asked him, Mahatmaji, you are trying to save that scorpion, but it is stinging you again and again. Then the Mahatma said, the scorpion is doing its dharma. Its dharma, animal instinct, its dharma is to sting. It is its nature. But my nature is to protect, save, and therefore I am doing my dharma. So when you go to the highest dharma, sannyasa dharma, every being around you is the manifestation of God. So, Pashubali, destruction of the animal tendencies within us, and then Narabali, attachment, my wife, my children, my society, confining ourselves to our selfish surroundings, that is, getting rid of it is Narabali. And once you get rid of that Narabali, the whole universe, Vishwamakhilam, it is one's own home. The whole world, universe is his home. He becomes an enlightened sannyasi. So, Pashubali and Narabali, these were prescribed by our great masters. But what happened in the Kali age, these practices, symbolic practices of Pashubali and Narabali, it became sacrificing poor, dumb animals, the goat and other cock, etc., other living beings, in the name of rites and rituals in the yagas, yajnas, and even Narabali, sacrificing young children in the sacrifice, barbarian type of sacrifice. It was also practiced by brutish people. So, Pashubali and Narabali deteriorated to the level of killing poor, dumb animals and human beings. So, at this stage, deterioration started. At this stage, Lord took to the form of Buddha. Nindasi yajna vidher ahah srudijatam. Srudijatam means that which has come out of Shruti. Shruti we all know, we already explained, it is that which is heard by the great rishis in their intuitive consciousness. So out of Shruti, the intuitive consciousness, the great rishis prescribed the various paths of rites and rituals, and then the dhyana and meditation, and then reaching the highest level. So all these had emerged from the Shruti, the karma and yoga, etc. So, Nindasi yajna vidhera hahasruti jatam. All these had come from the Shruti. Alas, ahaha means alas. Nindasi, these were all distorted. Nindanam means distortion. These karma marga was distorted. Ahahasruti jadam. Sadaya hridaya parsida pashughadam. Poor dumb animals being sacrificed in the name of rites and rituals, Lord saw, and then he wanted to put an end to it, and therefore, Nindasi yajna videra hastu dijadam sadaya hridaya darshita pashugadam Kesava Dhrita Buddha Sharira. Kesava, Lord Vishnu, he took to the form of Buddha. So Buddha Avatara is considered to be the avatara of Mahavishnu to put an end to these blind and superstitious rites and rituals. Of course, if you go into the history of Buddhism, we find Buddhists have often struggled against the Hindus' superstitious beliefs, rites and rituals. There was clash between Hinduism and Buddhism. In the history we have seen the confrontation between the Hindus and the Buddhists, because the Buddhists could not agree with these practices, etc. And therefore, Buddhavatara was to reform or refine our dharma, to elevate the Hindu dharma once again to the higher values. And then, next avatara, it is predicted. In the Gita Govinda also, Kalki Avatara is predicted. It is at the end of this Kali, the Kalki Avatara has to come. What will be the Kalki Avatara? It is said that Kalki comes on a white horse. In his white robe, he is riding a white horse, and with a drawn out sword in his hand, Kalki appears. Today we are living in the age of intercontinental ballistic missiles. So to say that God will come with a sword in his hand and on horseback, people may think it is stupid. Today it is the period of ballistic missiles and rockets and planes. Why should he come on the horseback and with a draw? It is a symbolic presentation. White denotes purity. In white robe, absolute purity, he is riding the forces of purity. Horse, which is white, it is the force of purity. And the sharp sword represents the highest intellect or wisdom, which pierces all ignorance, the darkness, everything is removed, and he comes. That is the Kalki Avatara. It is a symbolic presentation of the highest enlightenment. Mahayogi Aurobindo and others, they have all predicted that there will come an age when human beings everywhere, they will advance towards to that highest realm of knowledge and wisdom. That is the symbolic representation of the achievement of the highest supramental consciousness in the entire universe. Every being will evolve into a God-realized soul. That is the ultimate end of evolution. So this great ideal is presented in the concept of avatars. We all found that in the Bhagavat, in the Mahabarata, the whole wisdom of the great Vedic rishis, they were presented in the form of the 18 chapters of the BhagavatGita. Sarvopanishado gavo dhogda gopala nandana partho vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamritam mahat. The entire wisdom which has come down from the Vedic period till the period of the Buddha, they are all presented in the Bhagavad Gita. Beautifully they are presented in the, of course, Gita is pre-Buddhistic period, but all the wisdom of the rishis is presented in the Gita, and Gita is also considered as an Upanishad. In the Gita slokas, every chapter ends Gita Upanishad, mentioning in the Upanishad, Gita Shastra is an Upanishad, it mentions. So, we are now going to take up the message of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the sum and bonum of the entire Vedic and Vedantic philosophy. Bhagavad Gita is a part of the Mahabarata epic. We find it in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata. Lord Krishna is giving advice to Arjuna, and the message of Lord Krishna to Arjuna, it constitutes the message of Gita. In the BhagavatGita, the first chapter, we find Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna represents the ordinary common man. When problems, struggles, sufferings, everything confront us in our life, sometimes we are at a loss what to do, where to go, how to act. In such a condition, the highest wisdom gives us the guidance, the way. The Mahabharata war, Arjuna, he has to confront the Kauravas, who are his own kith and kin. And in the Mahabharata war, we found that Bhishma, the grandsire, Drona, the teacher of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas, all of them, and Karna, the elder brother of the Pandavas, they are all on the side of the Kauravas. And Arjuna is agitated. He puts a question to Krishna: how can I kill my own people and attain happiness, bliss? I don't think it is advisable. I would like to give up my action. I will retire from action, take to sannyas, become a mendicant, and I am prepared to die in the battlefield rather than killing my kith and kin. And it was at this juncture that Krishna, the Supreme Consciousness, he opens his mouth and he tells Arjuna, Klaibhyamma smagamapartha naidattva bapadyate. You see, don't become an impotent one. Klaibhyamma smagamapartha. Neither male or female impotency, don't develop that. Naidattva bapadyate. This is not fitting for you. Kshudram hridaya dhaurbalyam. It is weakness of your heart. Hridaya dhaurbalyam. Tyakto tishta parantapa. Give up and rise up, rise up, rise up. Very beautifully, Krishna gives advice to Arjuna. He says, Swadharme nidhanam sreya paradharmo bhayavaha. As a Kshatriya, as a warrior, you have to fulfill your duty, fight for the cause of dharma. Taking to the sannyasi garb, going as a mendicant, that is not your role. That is the role of the highest Brahmin. You have not yet developed that. Paradharmo bhayavaha, it is dangerous for you. Take up your arms, fight for righteousness. That is your duty now. But Arjuna is confused. He again asks Krishna, I am not very clear. Please enlighten me at this juncture what I should do. Krishna asks him to be a man of steady wisdom. And Arjuna asks him, who is a man of steady wisdom? In the second chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, the last 18 stanzas, they are known as Stitapragna Darshana. And in that Stitapragna Darshana, Krishna explains to Arjuna who is a man of steady wisdom, how he behaves, how he conducts himself. All these are explained to Arjuna, and Arjuna is convinced. And then Arjuna comes forward, takes up the arm and fights the battle. This is the story of Mahabharata which you have already seen. And the whole message of Bhagavad Gita, the central theme of Bhagavad Gita is in this Stitapragna Darshana, and the theme of the BhagavatGita, it is called, BhagavatGita is called Yoga Shastra. The word yoga means, it comes from the root yuja. Yuja means to join. I am in the physical body, I have mind, I have intellect, and I am gradually growing. Club these with the highest consciousness. That is yoga. Rise from the material plane to the intellectual plane and to the intuitive plane. So going up and uniting yourself with the Supreme Consciousness, that is yoga. And the path for that yoga is mentioned in the Yoga Shastra, that is called BhagavatGita. Three main paths are mentioned: the Karma Marga, the Bhakti Marga, and the Jnana Marga. As an ordinary human being, I said that Krishna asked Arjuna, after all he is representative of an ordinary human being, he has to execute his duties, surrendering everything to the Supreme Consciousness. He must act on in this world. That is the Karma Marga. But while performing the Karma Marga, while performing my duties and responsibilities, all these are to be done as an offering unto that Supreme Being. It is not for me, but it is for Him that I am acting. I am just nimitta matram bhavasavyasaji, become just my instrument. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna. Acting as an instrument of the Supreme Being. So that is Karma Yoga. And surrendering everything, all our actions, the fruits of actions at the feet of the Lord, that is total devotion and surrender, that is Bhakti Marga. And through Karma Marga and Bhakti Marga, we elevate ourselves to the realm of the highest wisdom, the Supreme Jnani, and that is Jnana Yoga. The body, mind and intellect, they are united with the Supreme Consciousness. So, this path is called Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. The Bhagavad Gita speaks about Naishkarmya and Nishkama Karma. Karma is action. Naishkarmya means doing nothing, sitting idle. And Krishna very emphatically tells Arjuna, Nahi kaschid shanamapi jadu tishtatya karmakrit karyate hyavasak karma sarva prakriti jay gunaihi. Our human nature, it impels us to action. I have to breathe, I have to walk, I have to eat, I have to do things. Nahi kaschid shanamapi jadu tishtatya karmakrit. Not even a moment of my life I can remain actionless. There is a Malayalam song, Charanam, Charanam, Charaname Jivita Lakshyam. Movement, action. That is the mark of life. If you are actionless, you are a dead corpse. As long as you are alive, breathing, moving, everything is action, you will have to act on. So, Nahi kaschit shanamapi jadu tishtatya karma. Not even a moment you can remain actionless. Karyade hyavasak karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. Prakriti jair gunaihi means impelled by the qualities of nature. Every being is pushed to action. Even a stone, we say an inert stone, but it is not inert. Gradually, the stone starts the process of deterioration. Rain, sun, all these causes change on that stone. So the stone also changes. Sometimes big boulders from the top of the mountain, they roll down. Action. Nature impels them. Even in a stone is impelled to action by nature. So Nahikachit Chanamapi Jadutishta Chakarmagrat Karyade Shavasak Karma Pravijair Gunaihi. Everyone has to act. But how to act? Our selfish interests, it leads us more and more to the realm of ignorance. And Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jadhare Sayanam, as Adi Shankara says, at the time of our death, we carry a bundle of sins, ignorance, and in order to exhaust them, exhaust the existing vasanas, we have to take another birth, once again in the womb of the mother, and again that life, so continuous. And even in that life, you are not raising yourself up. Again and again, you will have to Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. This goes on. So, not even a moment you can sit idle, actionless. Birth and death once again pushes you to further action and action. That is, Naiskarmyam is not possible. But then how to act to get rid of this chain of birth and death? That is karma. You have to act surrendering everything unto him and as his instrument. Yat karoshi yadasnasi yajjuhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madharpanam. Whatever you do, whatever action you do, yat karoshi, whatever you do, yadasnasi, even you are eating, drinking, that also is to be dedicated to him. Yadasnasi, yat karoshi yadasnasi, juhoshi, whatever you offer in the havan, in the rites and rituals, yat juhoshi dadasi, as dana, as alms, whatever you give, dadasi yat. Yat karoshi yadasnasi, yat juhoshi dadasi yat, tat kurushva madarpanam. Offer everything unto me, not for your own self, but you are offering it for me as dedication to me. That is Karma Yoga. Renouncing the fruits of actions. He says, as long as I am attached to the fruit of action, Krishna says, again I will be bound in this cycle of birth and death, in the samsara. So to get rid of the samsara, I must get rid of the desire for the fruit of actions. That is nishkama karma, action without desire. Sometimes psychologists say that nishkama karma is not possible. Without any desire, how can you act? Even going to the temple, doing the pujas, rites and rituals, it cannot be nishkama because you have got a desire for something. Even the aspiration for the highest realization, that is kamya karma. But Vedanta says, from the material, mundane desires and urges, etc., if your mind is elevated to a higher thing, you become one with the Supreme Consciousness, and then you are not the actor, he is the actor, he is acting through you. You are just an instrument in his hands. So that is nishkama karma. So naiskarmyam and nishkama karma is very beautifully explained by Krishna in the BhagavatGita when he speaks about the karma. He very emphatically declares, na karmana nama narambat naiskarmyam purushosnute. By not starting, by doing work, you can sit idle. naja sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchadi. By just putting on an ochre robe and taking to the role of a sannyasi, getting detached from all activities and everything, there also is not the path for siddhi. You have to surrender everything, Ishvara Pranidanam, surrender everything unto him and live yourself as his instrument. So the greatest sannyasi who is in the Nivrutti Marga, the one who is acting selflessly in the world, Pravrutti Marga, the one who gives up all activities and sits in contemplation, meditation, Nivrutti Marga, he has also surrendered everything unto the Supreme Being. Tyaga and Sannyasa, these are the two terms that are discussed in the BhagavatGita. Tyaga is renunciation, giving up the fruits of actions. In the Nivrutti Marga, Sannyasa Marga, even the action is given up. You are not doing any rites or rituals, you are not going to the temple, you are not doing any spiritual practices. Everything is given up and all the time sitting and contemplating on the Supreme Being. So, Pravrutti Marga and Nivrutti Marga, these are very clearly indicated by Sri Krishna to Arjuna. From Pravrutti, you have to go ahead to the Nivrutti Marga. In that case, you become one with the Supreme Consciousness, and that is the goal of the Karma Yoga, the ultimate goal of Karma Yoga, leading you from action to a realm of actionlessness. Now in the realm of action, you are acting. When you go to the realm of actionlessness, you are not acting. The Supreme Consciousness is acting through you. You are just a mute instrument of the Supreme Consciousness. So this is the message that Krishna gives to Arjuna. People engaged in this path, he classifies them into four groups. You have already seen Chadurvarnyam Mayasishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. Krishna says in the Gita that I have created the four classes of human beings. In the process of evolution, from the lowest to the highest realm, when you march, there are four stages, and they are the stages in which the human beings have to pass. Now, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, these four classifications. The Shudra, according to Krishna, those who are indulging in utter selfish life, eating, drinking, sleeping, and doing manual or physical labor for their own sustenance. But a little higher is the Vaishya, who produces the wealth, who distributes to everybody, who does dhana dharma. In our Indian history, we find the great Vaishyas, they used to set up temples and dharmasalas, etc. So, such a life, of course, they are looking after their business interest, earning money, but at the same time, they are serving the society also. So, they are a little higher than the lowest class. And then comes the Kshatriyas, who fight for the entire society to protect the lives of all people, including the Shudras and the Vaishyas. These Kshatriyas, who are devoted to the protection of the country, of the society, etc., Kshatriya dharma, they give up their life even in that endeavor. Sudharme nidhanam sreyaha, getting killed in protection of the dharma, that is the life of a Kshatriya. And then the highest men of realization, Brahmana. The word Brahmana is defined as Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam. those whose mind always revels in the Brahman consciousness. Just by putting a Yajnopavita and ringing the bell and doing some temple services, I cannot become a Brahmin. There also, I may behave like a Shudra, aspiring for money, asking for property, etc. That is not the life of a Brahmana. He has to evolve from that to that of total renunciation. A Brahmana, it is said in the scriptures, is one who does not keep food for the next meal. He will not have anything even for the next meal. Karatala Bhiksha Tarutala Vasaha, living under the tree or in the temple premises and taking Bhiksha. A Brahmana, he has to go from house to house begging for food. He doesn't possess. One who possesses for the next meal, he cannot be a Brahmana. So that means total renunciation, no attachment to anything that is worldly. Just survive whatever you get, Nitya Nitya Bhiksha. From that Nitya Bhiksha, whatever you get, you have to survive with that. So the classification, Chaturvarnyam, that is also mentioned by Krishna in the BhagavatGita. So in the life, everybody, Janmana Jayate Shudraha, all of us are born as Shudras, no doubt at all. Even if we are born in a Kshatriya family or a Brahmin family, by birth we are all Shudras. But gradually we evolve through karma, through samskara, our life evolves to that of the highest Brahmin. So this message is very clearly given in the Karma Yoga path prescribed in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhakti Yoga is total surrender, dedicating everything to Lord. In the Bhakti Yoga, Bhagavan says, he classifies Parabhakti and Aparabhakti. Two forms of bhakti are mentioned. The Parabhakti is our ordinary bhakti. We go to the temple, we do rites and rituals, etc., everything. And Apara Bhakti is total surrender to the Lord, completely dedicating ourselves to the consciousness. Bhakti and Prapati, two words are used in our scriptures. Bhakti is doing acts of devotion. Of course, sometimes in the Bhakti Marga, there is attachment, there is desire. Narada in his Bhakti Sutra, he says, Satvasmin Parama Prema Swarupa Amrita Swarupa cha. It is intense love and devotion to the Lord. That is true bhakti. Apara Bhakti, Prapatti, is total surrender to that Lord. That is called Prapatti. In our scriptures, examples, illustrations are given. A bhakta, he craves, he prays to the Lord to protect him. He does all rites and rituals, everything. He clings to the God. But a man in the Prapatti, Apara Bhakti, in the Apara Bhakti, he doesn't cling. They give the examples of the monkey and the cat. You see, the young one of a monkey, it clings to the stomach of the mother. The mother will jump from tree to tree, carry it everywhere, and whatever food she gets, she will feed to the young one. So, there is effort needed on the part of the young one of a monkey to cling to the stomach of the mother while the mother is moving. That is Markada Nyaya. Markada in Sanskrit means monkey. Marjara Nyaya. Marjara means kitten, the small kitten, it will be just inactive. It will just lie down there. The mother comes, she takes that kitten in her mouth. She takes the kitten from place to place. She takes the kitten for feeding, etc. So here, on the part of the kitten, it is total surrender. There is no effort on its part to cling to the mother. It is the mother who is carrying. So in the bhakti, effort is needed on the part of the devotee to cling to the Lord, do rites, rituals, etc., prayer, etc. But in the apara bhakti, in the prapatti marga, Vaishnavas, they say total surrender to the Lord, not aspiring anything. He takes care. Whatever He wills, let His will be done. So that is the prapatti marga. So these two are prescribed in the BhagavatGita, and Krishna assures, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantir nigacchadi kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. He says, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma, the person who totally surrenders to the Lord and gives up everything in the service of the Lord and remains always fixed, with mind fixed in the Lord, he becomes Kshipram bhavati. Immediately he becomes Dharmatma, an embodiment of all values. Shashvat Shantir Nigachadi, permanent peace and bliss he attained. Kshipram bhavati Dharmatma, Shashvat Shantir Nigachadi, Kaunteya Pratijanihi, O Arjuna, Kaunteya Pratijanihi, no. Name bhakta pranashyati. It is a very great assurance that Lord gives. Name bhakta pranashyati. My devotee, he never perishes. He is always protected. Name bhakta pranashyati. In another place, he says, Ananya chintayanto mam yajana paribhasate. When a man rises himself to that level of a prapanna is one who is practicing prapatti, then how will he look after his own interests, physical interests, mental interests, and all his desires, all his needs and necessities? Who will take care of him when he surrenders all action, everything? Ananya chintayanto mam yajana paribhasate. Without thinking anything about the family, about the livelihood, about food, clothing, anything. Ananya chintayanto mam yajana paribhasate. Those people who adore and worship me, tesham nityabhyuktanam. Nityabhyukta means the one whose mind is constantly nitya, ever pinned into me. Nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. I take care of all their necessities, their food, clothing, their family, everything will be taken care of by me once the total prapanna, the surrender, takes place. So that is the Bhakti Marga that is preached in the BhagavatGita. When one rises from the Karma Marga by performance of actions without desire, slowly one rises to the Bhakti. From Karma, one moves forward to Bhakti. First he does things without interest, selfless action, renouncing the fruit of action, that is Karma Marga. Then the mind gets devoted to the Lord, so Bhakti Marga. And once he comes to the realm of Bhakti Marga, enlightenment takes place in him, that is Jnana Yoga. He elevates himself to the realm of a Jnani. You see, in the Gita, distinction is made between Vijnana and Jnana. Vijnana is knowledge of all things around us. Ignorance is given up, but there is knowledge. But the highest knowledge, Vidya, is Jnana. is the realization of the ultimate truth that everything is God. I see the table, I see the chair, I see everything, I see all the objects, books, everything. I have an understanding of all these things. But the moment I realize that all these are nothing but proton, neutron, electron, which emerges from the supreme consciousness, that is the highest jnana. So knowledge of lower things and knowledge of higher thing, that is Vijnana and Jnana. From Vijnana, I raise myself to the realm of Jnana. And here, a very essential quality is mentioned by Bhagavan. To reach the highest state of a jnani, what is needed is Shraddha. Shraddha means total devotion. Total surrender and devotion. Through that Shraddha, you attain the highest knowledge or wisdom. Now, once you attain this wisdom, what are the marks of a man of highest wisdom? In the BhagavatGita, as I said in the second chapter, the last 18 stanzas, they contain the entire message of the BhagavatGita beautifully in that Stitapragna darshana. And Mahatma Gandhi in his prayer meetings, he used to chant every day these 18 stanzas, the Stitapragnasya darshana. When Krishna explained Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, all these to Arjuna, and asked him to raise himself to the state of Stitapragna bhava, you become a Stitapragna. Then Arjuna asked Krishna, what are the marks of a man of highest wisdom? Stitapragna means man of highest wisdom, highest consciousness. What are his qualities? At that time, in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan very beautifully presents the qualities of a Stitapragna. Arjuna asked, Stitaprajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya kesavaha stidadi kim prabhashede kimasita vrajeshim. Who is known as a man of steady wisdom? What are his qualities? How he acts and functions? So this question is put, and then Bhagavan replies. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bhagavan says, Prajahad yada kaman sarvan parthamanogadhan atmanye atmana tushta stitaprajnastatyohuje. Prajahadi means give up. Sarvan kaman, all desires and everything. Prajahad yada kaman, everything is given. All mental ruminations. Atmanye atmana tushta, one who revels within himself, he is a Stitapragna. He says, Dukkeshu anudignamanaha sukeshu vikataspruha vitaraga bhayakrotaha stitatir muniruchyade. How he acts? Dukkeshu anudignamana, he is not worried about sufferings. He is not worried about anything that happens to his physical body or kith and kin or anything. All sufferings that happens, he is never afflicted by these sufferings. Dukkeshu anudignamana, sukheshu vikataspruha. And if happiness comes, if fortune springs on him, he is unmindful of that also. He is not concerned about it. Somebody gives 1 lakh of rupees, hey, push it aside. You are not interested. Dukkeshu anudignamanaha sukeshu vikataspruha. Total detachment from all these pleasures, etc. Vitaraga bhayakrotaha. Raga is attachment, bhayam is fear, krodaha is anger. One who is free from all these, he is Stitaprajnastatochyate, Stitatir Muniruchyate. the Munis say that he is a Stitapragna. How he behaves, that also is beautifully put. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvajaha indriyani indriyatebhyas tasya prajna patishtitaha. A man, Stitapragna, he withdraws his physical senses, just like a tortoise, it withdraws its limbs within his ears, eyes, taste, skin, all sense perceptions he withdraws within himself. Without withdrawing these cells, moorings, you cannot attain to that highest state. So, withdrawal of everything, that is one quality that is prescribed for a Stitapragna. I am not going through all the stanzas anyway, I will see. So, yes sarvatra napisnehas tatat prapya shubha shubham nabhinandradina dveshti tasya prajna patishtita. One who is not desires or attached to the pleasures and who has no hatred to the sufferings, etc. Tasya prajna patishtita, it is steady, and like a tortoise, he withdraws all his senses. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drashtva nivartate. All the sense objects, they are Vishaya vinivartante. Vishaya means worldly moorings. From that, they are all withdrawn. Krishna gives a warning. It is not an easy thing to withdraw the senses. He says, Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini harandi prasabhammana. However much you may try to withdraw your senses, they again and again run into the world of objects. This is our day-to-day experience. Even when we sit for a meditation or a puja or a spiritual practice, sometimes suddenly the mind goes into worldly matters. It is very difficult to harness the mind and withdraw the senses. So, yatoshapi, even if we make an effort, it is very difficult. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asida matpara vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna. Therefore, controlling the senses and pinning down matparaha, turn them towards me, and yukta, join them to me, all the indriyas, he becomes a man of steady wisdom. Krishna says, Jayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangaste Subajayade Sangat Sanjayade Kama Kamas Krodo Bijayade. It is all our attachment to the worldly things. Jayate Vishayan Pumsa, worldly things, if we start contemplating on them, Sangha, attachment, it happens to worldly things. And from this attachment to the worldly things, Kama, Krodha, Mada, Matsarya, all these desire, and if the desire is not fulfilled, anger, all these arise. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti. And when anger arises, delusion occurs, and delusion leads us to loss of memory. Smriti bhramsat buddhinashaha, and the loss of memory leads to loss of intelligence. Buddhinasat pranashyati, and loss of intelligence leads us to total devastation. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaicharan atmavasyer vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. Therefore, withdrawing the senses from all these worldly moldings and pinning it to me, you get the highest happiness. Prasade sarvadukhanam hanirasyo bhajayate prasanna chetasosyadyu buddhi paryavatistati. So, once stories are destroyed, sorrows are destroyed, and prasanna chetasosyadyu buddhi paryavatistati, and his brain becomes steady in contemplation and meditation. Nasti buddhira yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata prasantir asandasya kutasvam. So, without spiritual understanding, unfoldment, you cannot meditate, contemplate on him. And when there is no proper contemplation, meditation, there is no peace of mind. Indriyanam hijaradam janmano vidiyate tadasya haridi prajna vayurunnavam ivambasi. He says, Indriyas, when they go into the worldly objects, janmano vidiyate, the mind just runs after them, Indriyas. It Haradi Prajna Vayurnavam Ivambasi, a boat going on the ocean, it is drifted by the wind. Just like that, when the senses run into the worldly things without control, it is dragged to the middle of the ocean, Sansara Sagara. Tasmadhyasya Mahabaho Nigrihitani Sarvasaha Indriyan Indriyartebhyas Tasya Prajna Pratishtita. Therefore, Indriyani, Indriyartebhyas, from Indriyas, the senses, they are to be withdrawn from the worldly moorings, from the objects of enjoyment. Then Tasya Prajna Pratishtita, his intellect becomes steady and he becomes a realized person. Yanisa Sarvabhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sanisa Pashutomine. Ordinary people and men of highest intellect contemplation, there is a difference. For us, what is day is night for them, and what is night for them is day for them. Yanisa Sarvabhutanam, when the whole world sleeps, the jnani, he sits in contemplation, meditation, and he is deeply absorbed. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani, when the whole world is active and dynamic, Sa Nisha Pashuto Muni, the man of meditation, for him it is all darkness. He goes into the realm of contemplation. Avuryamana Majalapadishtam Samudramaba Pravisandi Yadvat Tadvat Kamayam Pravisandi Sarve Sashanti Apuji Nakamakami. So, when the water, rivers, they go and merge in the ocean remains undisturbed. So many rivers come and fall in the ocean, but the ocean is not disturbed. There are waves or tarangas, there is forceful flow in the river, but when it comes to the ocean is calm, quiet, unperturbed. So, when a man reaches the highest state of Stitapragna, even all these worldly attractions, worldly attachments and everything, they will never disturb him. His mind will be like a vast ocean. Vihaya kamanja sarvan pumamchariti naspraha dharmamo nirahankara sashanti madigacchati. By vihaya kaman, all giving up all desires, pumamchariti naspraha, without attachment, when a man marches ahead, he becomes nirmamo nirahankaraha. Nirmama means nothing is mine. Mamata, that gone. Nirahankaraha, that I, ego consciousness is also gone. In such a state, he becomes perfect, peaceful being. Sashanti madhigacchati. And Krishna concludes, Esha brahmi stitihi partha nainam prapya vimuhyati stitva syamantakale abhi brahma nirvana murchati. So, Esha brahmi stiti partha. O Partha Arjuna, this is the state of mind of a man of the highest consciousness, and Stitva Syamantakalebi, when the end comes to him, the physical body has to go, everything has to go back into the nature. Even at that stage, Brahma Nirvanam, he attains that state of Nirvana, total merger in the Supreme Consciousness. So, this is the state of Stitapragna, and therefore, the entire message of the BhagavatGita is rise from your mundane material existence through Karma Yoga, action without desire, and dedicating everything totally to the Lord, and then pin your mind to the Lord, Bhakti Yoga, total surrender unto Him, and then come to the realm of realization that everything is He, Aham Brahmasmi, that state, nirvana state you reach, there you attain the highest peace, bliss, that is the fulfillment of the meaning and purpose of life. This is the message of Bhagavad Gita. Jai Sri Ram, Bharat Mata ki Jai.